Today, our people united as one marched in full force to express their indignation against the misuse of the Priority Development Fund, better known as the pork barrel, by certain legislators in Congress. Speaking with one voice, they called for the total abolition of the Priority Development Fund. Can it be done completely? Will this affect the delivery of services to our people, especially the poor? And joining us tonight is Dr. Prospero De Vera, a top gun in politics and governance. Good evening, sir, and welcome to NewsLife.
Good evening.
Sir, to start us off, should the Priority Development Fund be abolished completely?
To me, the abolition of the PIDF should be a logical last step rather than a logical first step in reforming the way public funds are used. The problem with just the outright abolition is that you don't get the whole picture of the discretion given to public officials in deciding the use of funds. There is the equivalent of discretion in the legislative branch. There is one in the executive branch through the President's Social Fund. And there is one even in the judiciary through the Judicial Development Fund. Many people don't know that there is already pork barrel in the local government units. So what we need to do first is get a picture of how much discretionary funds are really there that are left to the decision of political leaders. And then find out how it is being used, how extensive is the corruption involved, what are the leakages, what is the problem, etc. And then decide whether discretion will be limited, whether discretion will be stopped, for example. It's difficult to outrightly abolish all types of discretion for public officials. For example, in times of calamities, you wouldn't want to tie unnecessarily the hands of the president in releasing an amount, for example, if devastation comes in, if an earthquake happens, or there is massive flooding, in the same way that you don't want to tie the discretion of local government officials. So the idea of outright abolition is, to me, misses the whole point. The problem is, how is discretion exercised by government officials?
So with that said, what kind of mechanisms do you think should be in place if the PIDF should not be actually completely be abolished in the beginning?
For example, I remember I wrote a column in Business World about close to 10 years ago, entitled "In Defense of the Pork Barrel," where I already enumerated certain steps that could be done to reform it. One of the things I mentioned there was to make the use of the PIDF fully transparent by mandatorily requiring legislators to post it in their websites, either the website of the House, the website of the Senate, or the websites of individual legislators. The House did it, except it was half-baked. What they did was just to disclose the general aggregate amounts for each type. For example, infrastructure, how many millions, social services. What is needed is very concrete information: what type of project, who is the contractor, where is the office of the contractor, how do you contact this particular company, so that watchdog groups and even local citizens can check the correctness of the projects. If in the website of a legislator there's a project, but on the ground there's no project, then you have a problem. If we were fully transparent in the reporting of the PIDF, we would have seen the Napoles scam a long time ago. The bogus cooperatives and NGOs would have been brought out because the information is not available. Something as simple as full transparency can go a long way.
So where does COA come into play here?
Oh, that's the other problem, I heard COA recently say that there are incomplete audit reports of the use of the PIDF during the past administrations. So my question is, isn't that supposed to be the job of COA? COA has a resident auditor in every government office, even in local government units. So if they're not doing anything, or if the audit reports are not there, then maybe we should put COA to task and ask, why did you not the PIDF? I know that in the past administration, for example, auditing was very spotty. They've got to answer those hard questions.
So now, with all these issues coming out, is it high time that the FOI bill be passed?
Not necessarily. I don't want the Filipinos to pin all their hopes on the FOI that this will solve the problem of corruption. It will help. But if we pin everything on FOI, and it happens a year from now, a year and a half from now, then we ask the question, so what do we do in those 1.5 years? I think the first step that we should do now to get a clear picture is put all the information out, get all the audit reports out. Ask the legislators to enumerate now the use of their PIDF under the Aquino administration if it has not been audited. So that when we get a big picture of the whole thing, then people's pressure can be used to make the COA produce the audit reports. Imagine if all those who went to Luneta would go to the Senate next week and demand that they will sit down and not leave unless all the senators citing the projects that they've done. Imagine the power of all those people. I don't think any good-minded senator would not do that if the people require it.
Now, sir, a great majority of our people are expanding their call to abolish the discretionary funds from the government officials to the presidency to judiciary and Congress. Can this actually happen?
It's a question that must be debated. I don't have an answer now because I don't know the information. And I don't think a unilateral call will do justice. The people have to debate, the representatives of the people have to debate and find out. For example, in all presidential systems all over the world, there is some discretion always given to both executive officials and legislative officials to use public funds. I think it is illogical to put every single centavo in the budget because that unnecessarily ties down the hands of government officials to respond to emergencies, to respond to specific needs. So we've got to balance, discretion, we've got to balance the amounts, and we've got to balance so that situations like this can be answered.
So today, thousands marched and converged at the Luneta, and it was also simultaneously done in other cities and countries. What is your assessment in today's event?
Oh, it's a very powerful message that the people have raised. They are telling government that we cannot have business as usual anymore. We will not allow public funds to be used and to be pocketed by corrupt government officials, and they're telling government to shape up.
So you were there today. What were the general assessments to those you were able to talk to this morning?
It was a very different atmosphere. I went there with a lot of my cycling friends from the University of the Philippines, and we arrived there very early. And it was a combination of a fiesta-like atmosphere, going to the park, a lot of people talking. The fact that it was not organized by a single individual was a very nice situation because everybody was having their pockets of discussions everywhere. And there were a lot of people that went there.
So what do you say about the power of social media? This is where it started, actually.
Yes, that's the other thing that is different with this particular march. The fact that it came from social media. And the other thing that was interesting is that people in social media seem to be suspicious of a lot of the organized groups. The fact that they would want to go there in an unorganized way and organize themselves there, and they are wary of certain groups that have a political agenda and would like to use the situation, for their political ends.
So we saw that it was a successful day today, but what's next? What needs to be done to keep the fire burning?
Oh, there's a lot of things that could be done. For example, for academic institutions, there's a need to deepen the discussion on the use of public funds and the discretion given to government officials. There should be a lot of fora that should be, or forums that should be organized all over the country to discuss the details of this. Second, we have to make and require the Commission on Audit to release all audit reports. Not just the ones that they've put in, but even audit reports of discretionary money being used in the executive branch of government. So we get a clearer picture. We would like the to use its moral suasion to make people continue to be vigilant about their rights, to make sure that they do it in a responsible way, for example. And we would like our government officials, of course, to listen. We would like Congress, particularly its leadership, not to simply insist that pork barrel is a right of legislators. It is not. It is a discretion given to legislators which must be done responsibly. So I am a little worried because some leaders in the House are talking about the PIDF as if it is money that is rightfully within the control of legislators. That is the kind of sentiment that makes a lot of people angry. This is a time for change.
Okay, on that note, thank you very much for joining us here tonight at NewsLife. That was Dr. Prospero De Vera, a top gun in politics and governance. Thank you, sir. President Aquino leads the nation in paying homage to the country's heroes. The details when NewsLife returns. Stay tuned.